When Air Force One landed in Minnesota, the president detoured, driving around the Rochester airport to greet overflow fans. They weren't allowed in due to state COVID-19 guidelines that limited the crowd to 250 people.
All because the governor wants to play games.
In a statement to KARE 11, the governor's spokesperson responded by saying, quote, Governor Walz thanks President Trump for finally following public health guidance at a campaign rally. Trump's team had wanted a 25,000-person rally to be held 30 miles west at a steel distributor.
The Democrat Party wants you to be banned from peaceful assembly while they allow their supporters to burn down a police precinct.
Making his fourth visit here since August, President Trump arrived in Minnesota after the state set records this week for COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations.
And we are rounding the turn on the pandemic with or without vaccine.
But the president's 20-minute speech focused largely on other issues, including a promise to further slash refugee admissions and continue his travel ban. On crime, Trump said he would increase funding for law enforcement in a second term and add more aggressive prosecutors, echoing a campaign theme by the last Republican president to win Minnesota, Richard Nixon.
1972, this is a state you've been poorly run for too long. You want law and order also.
Over the final 3 days of the campaign, the president is scheduled to appear at rallies in 7 states, including Wisconsin and Iowa, but he's not scheduled to come back to Minnesota before Election Day. In Rochester, I'm Danny Spiewak, KARE 11 News.
Joe Biden's second campaign stop in Minnesota during this election took place here in this parking lot of the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. That's because it was a socially distanced drive-in rally. That rally was limited to about 250 people in about 100 cars. It made for a different kind of event with honking instead of cheering.
Hello, Minnesota!
But it was fitting because Biden began his speech talking about his response to the pandemic before addressing the unrest in the Twin Cities following the death of George Floyd.
And while Donald Trump fails to condemn white supremacy, we can deliver on racial justice. The season of protest has broken out across the nation because the life and dignity of George Floyd, senselessly killed 7 miles from here, and so many others that mattered. Protesting and burning and looting is not protesting. It's violence, clear and simple, and will not be tolerated. But these protests are a cry for justice.
During the event, there was a group of Trump supporters who gathered outside on the other side of the fence. They could be heard with air horns trying to disrupt Biden's speech. Now, he did address them directly during his speech, saying that if he's elected, he would take care of them as well, saying we all need to come together.